So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Triune Physics, aka Physics Bible. And we're still delving into our journey of force. And today we'll briefly look into all the types of forces as we have them in physics. We'll be treating all of them. But first is the frictional force. Number one is frictional force. Frictional force. It is denoted as F of F. Let's use this to represent frictional force. Frictional force mathematically is given by F of F is equal to mu, which is coefficient of friction, multiplied by a normal reaction. I hope that is taken. But F of N is equal to a normal reaction, where mu is equal to coefficient of friction. Okay, and this coefficient is either that of static friction or kinetic friction. I hope that is clear to you. Where F of N is normal force, and it is also giving us R, or normal reaction. So by interpretation, using biblical concepts, what is friction when it comes to frictional force? So frictional force tends to oppose the motion of two objects or two surfaces in contact. Once there is a contact here, this is surface 1 and this is surface 2. So I have 1 and I have 2. So because of that, friction reacts this way, and then this will now become applied force. So using biblical concept, in Proverbs 27:17, it says what? That iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. So there has to be contact. There has to be contact within these two surfaces before this iron can sharpen this iron, which is why friction will now act between two surfaces in contact. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So this is the concept of frictional force. I hope that is clear to you. So friction, though resistive, is essential for movement and growth. So without friction, this body cannot move across this other body. Is that clear? So similarly, life challenges which represent friction, life challenges represent friction. Is that clear? Sharpen and refine us in our walk with God. So the normal force, which is F of N, also giving us normal reaction, represent the foundation of God's support that allows us to endure friction and grow. So, which is why the formula is F of N is equal to R and is equal to mu multiplied by a normal reaction, which is F. I hope that is clear, because this is given in Newton. It is given in Newton. So this concept is clear. Number 2, we have tension force. Is that clear? Tension force T is giving us applied force plus weight. Is that clear? So that tension will now equal MA plus mg. I hope this is clear to you. Using a diagram to represent this, if a body, let's assume this is a body, is placed on another body, is that clear? Then you would expect that we have the component of y-axis and the component of x-axis. So for this to be done, we now represent this to be a normal reaction, this to be our applied force, that clear? Then this will become frictional force, and weight will now act downward. So if we relate this using tension, then tension T will now equal this plus this. I hope that is clear to you. Where our M represent the mass of the object. Is that clear? Then A represent acceleration. Then F of G, which is equal to W, which is equal to mg, is equal to gravitational force. Exactly. Acting on the object. So in static cases, tension T is equal to F of G and is equal to mg. And of course, you know that G is acceleration due to gravity. I hope that is clear to you. So let's look at biblical concepts. The biblical concept for tension can be seen in Matthew 11:28. It says, come unto me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So what does it imply? It means tension arises from the forces pulling on us, much like the burdens of life. So weight pulls downward, and that's why it is the burden of life, mg. However, acceleration A, which has to do with this, ma, exactly, reminds us that forward motion is possible. So this is what we call progress. Ma is the same thing as progress. I hope that is clear. So if that is the case, because of acceleration, it reminds us that forward motion is possible when we rely on God to balance the weight, which is this, to balance the weight, okay, Fg of our struggles. So God balances the weight of our struggle because of tension. I hope that is clear. Number 3, we have normal force. We have normal force, which is going to be F of n. Oh, that is clear. A normal force, F of n, is giving us mg multiplied by cos theta. What it implies is that Fn is equal to W multiplied by the angle, which is cos theta. Exactly. If this is inclined, and this is a component of x-axis. Component of x-axis. Please take note of that. Where m is equal to the mass of the object, then our g is acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity. Then our theta is the angle of the incline. If it is inclined, exactly. That is, if it is inclined, then use that as your angle. Or if it is a flat surface, then we can boldly say that our F of n, which is our normal force, will equal mg. Cos theta won't come into play because we don't have an angle. Exactly. Now let's look at the biblical concept for normal force in Psalm 18 verse 2. Psalm 18 verse 2. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. So the normal force symbolizes God's constant support. So normal force is equal to God's constant support. Exactly. Keeping us grounded even on steep inclines. It will keep us grounded even on steep incline at an angle cos theta. Exactly. Just as the normal force adjusts to support objects on a rope, God's strength meets us exactly where we are. I hope that is clear. So the strength of God meets us exactly where we are. So normal force tends to keep objects grounded. I hope that is clear. So using a diagram, if this is an object, if this is our object, then we can boldly say that we're going to have something like this. Frictional force will act backward. Exactly. The normal force will act on this. Then applied force will act on this, which is equal to MA. And this is our weight. Exactly. Take note of these. Number 4, we have what we called the applied force. And let's represent it with F of A, applied force. Applied force, F of A, is giving us mass multiplied by acceleration. Are you following? Now, where m is equal to the mass of the object, okay, then A is equal to acceleration caused by the applied force. Are you here? So if we are using a diagram to represent this, you have something in this form. This is your object, exactly. This is your surface, exactly. Then let's draw this, represent this, and let's use this to represent this. Exactly. So where is applied force here? Applied force is at the point where you apply your pull or your push. Is that clear? Let's assume our pull or push is by the right hand side, which is x positive. Then we can say our applied force is here. Is that clear? Then our frictional force is here. Then our weight is here. Then our normal reaction is here. I hope that is clear to you. So this is given as MA. This object tends to move to the right hand side, while frictional force acts in the opposite direction to the applied force. Let's look at the biblical concept for applied force. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things. That is it. I can move forward. I can do all things through Christ, which is the author of the force, which is the applied force, through Christ, who strengthens me, who empowers me. I hope that is clear. So an applied force moves us forward. Yes, that's why you're having this. It moves us forward. Is that clear? Then, much like God's guidance and strength, the mass M symbolizes our responsibilities. So our M, which is our mass, symbolizes our responsibilities, while the acceleration A represents or reflects the progress made when we trust in God. I hope that is clear. That gives us the idea of the applied force. Number 5, we have the air resistance force. Let's use F of air to represent that. I hope this is clear. So that F of air, which is air resistance force, is equal to 1/2 multiplied by rho multiplied by C of D. Please, this is C of D, which is drag coefficient. Is that clear? Multiplied by the area, which is a cross-sectional area, and multiplied by the square of the velocity, where is equal to air density. Is that clear? Then C of D represent drag coefficient. Okay. Then our A is a cross-sectional area. Is that clear? Of the object. Then our V equals the velocity of the object. Please take note of this. Then, using biblical concepts, in Job 33 verse 4, it says, for the Spirit of God made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. So air resistance slows objects down. I hope this is clear. Air resistance slows objects down, but it is also a reminder of the life-sustaining atmosphere God created. So the density P, the density represents the richness of God's provision, while the drag coefficient C of D represents or reflects how our choices impact how we face resistance. I hope this is clear to you. So, of course, you must apply your effort through the velocity, and the area, the cross-sectional area, is your environment in the world. And this is the speed at which you apply in order to see yourself make progress even in the midst of air resistance. I hope this concept is clear to you. Number 6 now, the spring force, represented as F of S. So the spring force is equal to negative K multiplied by E, which represent extension. Is that clear? Or it can become the displacement from the equilibrium position. So where K is equal to the spring constant, and then our E represents the displacement from the equilibrium position. So the negative sign, please take note, the negative sign, okay, it indicates the restoring force direction. It indicates the restoring force direction. Please take note of this. Is that clear? So let's look at it using biblical concepts. The spring force can be seen in Psalm 51 verse 12, and it reads, "Restore to me the joy of your salvation." So the spring's restoring force pulls object back to equilibrium, okay, symbolizing how God's grace restores balance in our lives when we stray. The straying here is our E. When we stray, God restores us. So is this exactly? And then the spring constant K represents the unchanging strength of God's promises. The unchanging strength of God's promises. That is the spring constant. Next, we have the gravitational force. Gravitational force giving us F of G. I hope this is clear. And F of G is giving us G M1 M2 all over what? R squared, where G is equal to gravitational constant, and it is giving us 0.674 times 10 raised by negative 11 Newton meter squared per kilogram squared. Exactly, it's a constant, and this is the value for that. Then our M1 and M2 represent the masses of two objects. Exactly. Then our R represents the distance between the centers, between the center of the masses. I hope this is clear to you, which is why for objects near Earth, F of G is given as mg. That's mass multiplied by gravity, which is the same thing as W. I hope that is clear. Now let's look at the biblical concept in Colossians chapter 1 verse 17. He holds all creation together. That's what Colossians 1:17 says. So gravity keeps everything in place, just like God, his invincible, powerful hand sustains the universe. The masses M1 and M2, okay, represent relationships and their closeness. And then the R determines the strength of their bond. The R here determines the strength of the bond between a man and God himself. Just like our closeness to God influences our spiritual strength. I hope this is clear to you. Then number 8, we have what we call electrostatic force. Okay, it is giving us F of E. F of E is giving us K of E multiplied by Q1, Q2 all over R squared, where K of E equals Coulomb. Coulomb constant, and it is giving us 8.99 times 10 raised to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb squared. I hope that is clear. So that Q1, Q2 are the charges of the objects. Okay, and then our R represent the distance between the charges. I hope this is clear to you. So using biblical concepts to represent this, in Proverbs 27:17, it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So the attraction or repulsion, okay, or repulsion I hope you are getting this concept. The attraction or repulsion between charges is a metaphor for human relationships. The charges Q1 and Q2, represent individuals, and the distance R, which is this, reflects how proximity influences our spiritual connections. I hope that is clear to you. Please take note of these. Number 9 is called magnetic force, which is F of M. Is that clear? F of M. F of M is giving us Q VB sine theta. Okay, where Q is equal to the charge of the particle. Okay, then our V equals the velocity of the charged particle. And what again is given, we have a B to be the magnetic field strength. Okay, then our theta is equal to the angle between the velocity, which is V, and the magnetic field, which is B. For a current carrying wire or conductor, we can say that magnetic force is equal to current multiplied by the length of the conductor multiplied by the magnetic field strength multiplied by sine theta. Exactly. So that I is equal to the current in wire. Okay. Then our L is equal to the length of the wire. And then our B, of course, we know that to be what? The magnetic field strength. Then we have sine theta, which is the angle between our L and B. Hope that is clear to you. So let's look at the biblical concept in Hebrews 12:1. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Exactly. So magnetic force, which is this? Okay, magnetic force guides charged particles in motion. The particle now is the Q. It guides charged particles in motion, much like God's Spirit directs us on the right path to follow. So the charge Q symbolizes faith. Velocity V reflects momentum of life. Okay? And then the magnetic field B represents the Holy Spirit's influence. I hope that is clear to you. So that is that for this episode. I hope you've been able to understand the 9 types of forces that we have in place, and then their applications when it comes to physics. The first 4 are always together. They are primarily together, and the remaining ones are applied as we make progress in physics. I hope that is clear. Connect to our social media handles at Physics Bible, the Triune Physics, for latest update. Thanks for joining us. Stay equipped, stay liquid.